Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial. My name's Jennifer and from Biedermann Jewelry. And as you can see, we're going to do a bracelet today with using components, and it's a fun project. It is a little time consuming, but it's worth it. And I will show you the material list you'll need in a minute. Now, I'm going to have kits put together for these. There'll be a little card button there that you can click to download either the tutorial or to purchase a kit. I'm going to have two colors here. I may put a third one on. I'm not sure which colors I'm going to choose yet. But this is the bracelet. We're going to be doing this one today. And as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing all kinds of design possibilities. So when you finish this project, you are going to start making other things out of what you're learning to create today. For example, see this little component here? I see a ring, and I would totally wear this ring. A big ring like that. I love big rings. I see earrings. I see a necklace, and it drapes very nicely as a necklace. I'm seeing all kinds of possibilities here. So I hope you do too, and I hope you continue creating once you learn these components, because there's so many, like I said, possibilities. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you your material list and we'll get started. So here are the materials you're going to need for this project. I'm going to be using a 14 millimeter Swarovski rivoli. I'm using two size 11s here. I'm using a silver line crystal AB, and I'm using a turquoise green matte here, and these are my size 15s. We're going to use those for the circles, the peyote circles. Those are galvanized bright silver. I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and I'm using about a wingspan of Fireline 6-pound. So get your materials together, and we'll get started on the square little rivoli. Okay, and we'll be right back. What I've already done is I created my circle. To create the circle, you're going to pick up 36 size 11 seed beads of your color A. My color A is the turquoise green matte, and my color B is going to be my crystal silver lined AB. So pick up 36 beads. You will create a circle by sewing back through your tail until you're one bead past your tail. Okay, so I've passed one bead. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create the first point of our square. So you're going to pick up two size 11s, color A, and you are going to go through the next seed bead. You're not skipping a bead, you're just going through the next seed bead to create the first point. So we'll pull that through. We're going to pull it so that, and put our needle in there just so it sits properly. It will be fiddly the first row, but be patient, give a little tug on your tail, and there's our first square point. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to peyote 4 times. So you're going to pick up a seed bead. Pick up a seed bead. You're going to skip a bead. Coming out of this one, you're going to skip the next bead and sew right through the next one. So your beads will be sitting like this. You're coming out of a bead, you're picking up a bead, skipping the next bead, sewing through the next one. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, sew through the next bead. Now you want to pull tight, but not too tight, because you want to be able to, it's all going to come together at the end. Again, it's going to be wobbly, it's going to be fiddly, but it'll look great when we're done. So we have our point, we have 1, 2, 3 upper beads here that we've just created, and we're going to do the last one. We're going to do it 4 times. So here's my 4th, skipping a bead, sewing through the next bead. Okay, now we will create our second point of our square. So pick up 2 size 11 color A. You will not skip a bead. You're going to be sewing directly through the next bead. Sew through. Adjust your beads so they're sitting properly. Like that. We're going to turn it, and now we're doing our series of 4 for peyote. So pick up a bead, skip a bead, sew through the next bead. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, sew through the next one. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, sew through the next one. My point isn't sticking properly. Okay, done that 3 times. We'll do it last time. Skip a bead, sew through a bead. Done my 4. Now we're going to create our third point. Pick up 2 seed beads. Sew right through the next bead, sitting next to where your thread is coming out. Adjust your beads so that they're sitting properly. This one still doesn't want to sit properly on this end, but when I sew it through, when I go through it again, going around the row again, it's going to sit properly. All right, so we've created our third point. We're going to pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead. So that's twice. I will do that 2 more times. And 1 more time, skip a bead, go through the next bead, and pull. Now we're creating our last square point. Pick up 2 beads, sew through this next bead, sitting right next to that bead, pull through. Help them sit properly if they will. Mine are not. Get your tail out of the way. And we will do the last little bit of peyote. Skip a bead, go through the next bead. Skip a bead. Two more times. Skip a bead. Now we're going to step up. So this is the last bead we're putting on for our square. That's not looking like a square now, but it will. You're picking up your last bead. You will skip the bead, go into the next bead, and then you will step up into that point of the square and pull through. So you have your start of your square. Now I'm in the corner here, and we're going to start again. I'm going to go on to my color B, which is my crystal AB. I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, and I'm going through that next bead here, and it's going to make a point, and I'm going to make sure that they are sitting properly, because this is the row where, they weren't really sitting properly with the first round. Now here they're going to sit. Now I went through this bead, which I shouldn't have. Okay, so you're coming out, you went through here, you added 2 beads, you're coming out of this bead right here. Now we're doing our peyote with our color B. I'm picking up my size 11 crystal, and we're just going to peyote. You're going to do this, filling up, going through every upper bead. So 1, 2, 3. And as we go, we're going to be adding an extra bead on each row, so because it's going to get bigger and bigger as we go. So I'm going to make sure this is sitting properly over here on my edge of the square. Now I'm going to put my last bead in, and I'm going up through this bead. I'm back at my corner. I'm going to pick up 2 size 11 color B. I'm going through the next seed bead right next to it to keep that point going. See? Now it's starting to look like a square. Peyote up to the next point, inserting a bead in every next to every upper bead, or in between each upper bead. Now I'm going to sew up through this bead where my point is, going up through there. Now I'm going to be pulling tight here. I want everything to sit properly. I'm going to pick up 2 size 11 color Bs. I'm going through the next one, which is my square point. Pull tight. And then I'm going to pick up my color B and peyote to the next point. Oops. And up through, going through that point, continuing the point by picking up 2 color B, going through the next seed bead, and peyoting to the next point where we're going to have to step up to get into position to start the next row. Now at this point, as you can see, I did 2 color A's and then I'm doing color B. I'm going to be doing a color A again, a color B, until I want the size for my square. Now now it's time to step up. I've completed my round. I'm going to pick up the last color B here, and I'm going to go through the next blue, which is color A, and I'm stepping up into my color B. Now at this point, I want to get rid of this tail because it's driving me crazy. So here we have this so far. Okay, now I'm just going to take a look at my sample here. This one. So I want it this big, so I did two rows here. Well, in peyote, it's actually 3 rows, but I'm not going to confuse you. So we added, made a circle, then we added another color A, then we did a color B, then we're going to do a color A, then we're going to do a color B. Okay, so we're going to do another color A and another color B. So you finish creating your square, and I'll be right back to show you what to do. I have done, finished the square. So again, we have color A, then we have a color B, then we have a color A, then we have a color B. This is the size of the square. This is the rivoli that will be sitting in the square here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the exact same square, and we're going to sew it and zip it all together. Now, so before we do that, you have your thread here, and we want to weave through, make sure everything's connected so things don't fall apart, and then cut off your thread. So just start sewing through a few beads, following your thread path so no thread is showing. So if I'm coming out here, I'm going to go directly through this one. So I want to go in opposite directions, making sure everything is secure. Go in diagonally. So you can also do some half hitch knots, but I don't think I'm going to with this one. Peyote, it's pretty easy to just weave through, and it's not going to become undone if you go in and around, backwards, forwards a few times, and everything will be safe. So we'll come over here. I'll go diagonally all the way down. I think I'm pretty safe here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut my thread off. This square's done. And create a second one just like that. We'll be right back, and I'll show you how to put it all together. All right, so you've created your second square, and now you have 2 squares. Now, what we need to do is we need to zipper this together. And as it is now, we can't zipper it together, because when you put it together, I'm going to show you something here. We need one that sits in between the beads here. So I need a blue, a color A, so that I can zip it between these two. So you're going to take your square that you just finished, and you still have your thread on, and we're going to continue on, and we're going to pick up a color A like this. And instead of picking up 2 in the corner, we're just going to pick up 1. And we're going to sew that through. So we have our point. And you will just peyote around, all the way around the square. Just like this. And then when you get to the second point and all other points after that, you're just going to add 1 bead, not 2. So I'll just get to this end here. And I'm adding 1 bead. So continue that all the way around. Don't cut off your thread, because after that we have to start zipping it together. So finish that, and then we will zip everything up. Okay, now that you've gone all the way around, putting your points in each square, in each point, square, yes, you are coming out of this top corner bead. Okay, now we need to zip this thing up. And this is what it's going to look like. You're going to put your rivoli in there, But before we do that, you're going to put your pieces together like this. Now this outer point bead right here. I want you to be able to see this properly. Okay. All right, so out this outer point bead here, you're going to, so this is the color A. We're going to go on the other side, go into the next bead here, which is the color B, and you're just going to do this back and forth like a zipper. And when you pull it, that's going to bring that bead, that one bead that was sticking out, in the middle. The next bead we're going to go through, we came out of this one. The next one is going to be the one just next to it and slightly above. And we're going to pull. The next bead is going to be on the other side, and it's going to be the color B. And you will pull. I hope you can see this. So you're coming out of this one here, right here. You're going into the alternating one on the other side. And pull. It's going to cinch everything together. So color B, color A, up to the color B, and you'll do this all the way around. Now I'm going to do this until I get to the top portion here. Pull tight. And now we're going over on this side. Now we are at the other corner. The other corner here, the color B's that I have, you have two on this side, one on this side. So I'm going up one bead here. I'm jumping over to the other side, going through the color A, over here, turning. The next one I'm going into, wait a second here, is this one right next to it. Sorry, we're going to pull that. Then over on this side. Now I want to show you before we continue. See, we just zipped it together. You can't even tell. And then we're just going to do this all the way around. Well, not all the way around because we need to get to a point, and then we're going to pop our rivoli right in here. And then we'll zip it closed. So continue that until you've done this side. Well, you've done this side. You're going to do this side and this side. And then we'll get. So I've completed 3 sides, and it makes like a little pocket. And now you're going to take your rivoli. You're going to actually choose, sometimes, you can make a little mistake. Maybe put 2 beads somewhere where you shouldn't have, and you don't want to take it all apart. So look to see which side you like the best. And just put it in the pocket like that. And then you're going to finish zipping up this side. So I'm coming out. I already put that one together. So now I'm going to alternate my sides here as I've been doing. So we're only going to make one of these squares because this is going to be our focal point of our bracelet. And Wait a second. Just want to make sure everything's lining up. Right. Okay. Nope. It's going to be this one. And when we're done here, I am going to show you something. You're going to notice that your rivoli is moving around in this pocket here. And I'll show you what to do. All right, I'm at the end. This bead, this bead, this bead. All right, I'm zipped up. Now I'm going to turn it to the front. See how this thing is moving around in there? Now, some people, beaders, what they do is they will make a piece, the front piece like this, as big as they want, and then the back, they will stop here and zip it right there. But I didn't want this top part, the little bit that's left, to be floppy and to be bending around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my way down towards my rivoli. Okay. Following my thread path, so my thread isn't showing. And I'm just going to get myself right over here. All right. Now that I'm here, to get this rivoli from stop moving around, well, one of the solutions would be to get a bigger rivoli, but I don't have any 18s. I just have 14s on hand and smaller. So, but I did want it this size. So what I'm going to do is simply go back through as close as the rivoli as I can get so I can get it to stop moving. I'm just going to sew right down through the piece like this. Over here, I'm going to move up over here as close as I can get. And I'm going to be sewing up through like this. So the thread going up and down is going to stop this from moving around. Now, some beaders are going to maybe leave me a message or have a comment saying, you're not supposed to do it like that. But this is the way I do it, and it works for me, and I don't see the thread, and I don't want to see that floppy part on top. So just go up and down. See, now that I'm pushing it over to the side, it's not being able to get over to that side. So as you can see, this one, I did the same thing. So if I push it, it's not moving anywhere. And I did exactly the same way. You don't see thread anywhere, and it really does keep it in place. Another way, what you can do is before you put it in the pocket is you can glue it, but I don't suggest that. The glue is going to go through. You're going to see it on your beads, and it won't be pretty. So keep doing that all the way around as many times as you want, just to make sure that it's not moving around in there. And then the next step is we're going to be making these circles, and then we're going to be attaching them. Now you can attach them like this, but I'll show you how to do these, and we'll be right back. Okay, now before we move on to making our circles, I want to show you that I sewed this. It's not moving anywhere. It's solid, and you don't see any thread anywhere. Okay, so that's done. Next, we are going to be making these. Okay, now before we begin, the beads you're using. It's very important to use the proper beads, and I'll show you why. Here's an example. Here's an example, and here's an example. Using beads. Now, as you can see, if you follow my instructions and you're going to end up with something like this, well, it's because you're not using the right beads. I made this one. Yes, I made this one. And why I want to show you this is because if you come up with something like this, please don't give up. There's a reason why. So the reason is this. We have Toho beads and we have Miyuki beads. Miyuki beads, this is a size 11, this is a size 11. However, the Toho beads are slightly larger than these Miyuki beads. In this mess, I used the Toho beads mixed in with, and I used a Miyuki, I shouldn't have, but that's what happened. It's all a mess. But didn't give up. We came up with this. So I'm using, for this pieces, because we're using this color, we're still going to be using the turquoise, a green matte. We're going to be using the Crystal AB, both Miyuki, both the same size 11s. And we're using the 15 O's Miyuki as well, which is the bright, the galvanized bright silver. So again, if you come up with something like this, please don't give up. It's the beads you're using, okay? And it should be, even if you only have Toho, make sure you're using Toho throughout and not Toho and Miyuki or Miyuki in a check bead. Every bead is different. Some are round, some are square. I mean, you really have to be careful. So if you don't want to end up with this, use the same brand. Okay, so now that that's said, get your materials together and we'll get started on making this little round circle. Okay, now for the peyote circle that we're going to be doing, you will get your 15s. Make yourself a pile of 15s. You will pick up 44 15s and you will create a circle and your thread will go one bead past your tail. I didn't make a knot. These are 15s. I don't want to be able to struggle getting through that bead with a knot in it. We will be passing through, so not to worry about this coming apart. Now, be sure that you count 44, because if you have 43 and you go around, you're going to have to take it apart and do it again. So now that we have our circle, we're simply doing a peyote. Very simple. We will be picking up a bead, skipping a bead, going into the next bead. And you will do this all the way around, skipping a bead, sewing through the next bead. Do this all the way around and I'll meet you one bead before the step up. Okay, now we are almost all the way around. Now we need to step up. And a lot of people get confused as to where to step up because it looks like, for some, that, see this bead here I'm coming out of? I'm going through that one and it looks like there's a space here, but there's not. So you're going to go through this bead and step up into this one. So sew through and go directly into that next bead, and that is your step up. You will start a new row. Okay, so we're going to go around one more time and then we're going to move to our 11s. So peyote all the way around. So do that, and then again, pull tight. And as you pull tight, you'll see that it starts to cup up like that. That's what you want. So the second time you go around, it starts to, so just put your thumb there and help it turn itself into like a cylinder type of thing here, like that, okay? So go all the way around and I'll meet you again before the next step. Back at the next step up. So here we are. We're coming out of this bead. You will go see these two beads sitting next to each other here. This is your step up. So you don't jump into this one. You're going to go sew through this bead and this bead. So pick up your last 15 and you will sew through this bead and the next bead right next to it. Now we're set ourselves up for the next round. And before I do that, I'm going to cut my tail because it's getting in my way. Okay, that's gone. So now here we have our piece here. Okay, sorry about my nails, they're disgusting. Anyways, I do a lot of gardening and anyway, okay. So here are our 15s. The next bead we're going to put on is our 11s here. So you're going to get your color A, which is, I'm using the turquoise green matte. Picking up a bead. Coming out of this one, and we're just going to go all the way around. We're going to pull tight so that it pops in because these are bigger beads. Okay, almost there. And in this, we are going to be alternating colors. But when we do this row, it's important that you stick with me here because we have to move our way. After we do this row, we have to move over to the other side. And I'll explain why when we get there. Keeping your thumb in to keep the cylinder shape. Now, we're almost at the end. We will step up. As you can see, we don't sew through the next one here. We will have to sew through this 15 next to the 11. Sorry, now it's getting tight. So let me just finagle my way in here. Okay, oh my gosh. Okay, into the 15, up through the 11. Done that row. We are not going to continue on this side. We have to move over to the other side. Now, the reason why is because if you continue doing your color, here's your color A, then your color B, then your color A, then your color B, and then going back around to here, you won't be able to zip up in a 15 with an 11. It's best to zip up an 11 through an 11. So we're going to sew our way over to the other side, following your thread path. And that means sewing in a diagonal. I'm over here. And I'm going to sew my way until I get into an up bead. This is an up bead going through here. Okay, now I'm over on this side. You're picking up the same color. Peyote your way all the way around. And then we will be switching colors. So again, I will meet you before we have to step up. Okay. So go all the way around and I'll meet you. Okay, now that we're here, we're almost ready to do our step up. So we're going to sew through this one. Oops. And now for the step up. So we are going through this bead right here and this bead. And if you can't go through both, go through one and then the next one. All right, now we're ready to start the next row. And we are going to switch colors. So now I'm using my crystal AB here, and I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to stick to this side until I can zip up where my 11s are on this side. So you're going to put a row of these crystal ABs or whatever contrast color you're using. Then we will switch to the main color after this. And you'll notice that they're starting to push up like this because we're using bigger beads. Oh, completely out of frame. Sorry about that. All right. Last bead, and then step up. It's a lot easier to see with the bigger beads here. So through this one and this one. Now, let's look at our piece. So here we did our blue. We did our, what we just did was our crystal AB. And over here, I'm going to do 2 rows of my color A. Then I'm going to do a row of my crystal AB. Then we're going to zip up. So do 2 rows of your main color, 2 rows, and then you're going to do a row, 1 row of this color, and I'll meet you back when we're ready. Now that you've completed, you did the colors that I asked you to do, or that you're supposed to do, and you're coming out, and you stepped up, and you're coming out of this bead. Now we're going to start zipping up. You're going to go through this bead, and this bead, and this bead, and this bead, this bead, and this bead, just like the square. So we're going to go through this bead, pull tight. We will go through this bead. Oops. And pull tight. We'll go through this bead. Oh my Lord, I'm catching on to everything here. You'll go through this bead. All the way around. Isn't it satisfying once it's done? Wow. Now, this bracelet is just made up of these components. You have your focal square, and you have just a series of these peyote little circles. And once I'm done zipping this up, I'll show you for the sizing of the bracelet, how many you need to do. Now, the most popular size for a bracelet is usually about 7, 7.5. And for the amount of beads we used to make these circles, to have a 7.5-inch bracelet, you'll need to make 4 of these peyote circles. And we are going to be using one of the circles as a clasp. I'll show you how to do that. Oops, I went through too many. are done. Okay, now we're done. Now we just need to weave in and out like I showed you on the square. Weave in and out, backwards, forwards, to secure your thread. Go up through this one, following your thread path through here. Back through here. Now I'm secure. I'm safe and secure. This isn't going to fall apart. So now take your scissors, cut your thread. Now to complete this bracelet, here's my focal point. I'm not sure if I want it this way or this way yet, but I'll figure that out once I'm done. I'll figure it out once I'm done, what I want to do. So what we'll do is you need to do 2 more circles like this, and then we're going to attach them together with a little bit of space here because I want to put some crystals in between. And so for a 7.5 inch to 7 inch bracelet, you need to do 2 more of these. So complete your 4 peyote circles, and we're going to use 1 as a clasp, and then we're going to do a toggle. Okay, so complete all your pieces, we'll put them together, and then we're going to make the toggle. So I'll see you now that you've done your 4 round circle components, you've done your square. I've already attached this side, and I'm going to show you how to attach the other side. It's the exact same thing. So you're going to come out of your top corner bead right here. You will pick up, by the way, I didn't put this in the material list. Sorry, forgot about that. You're going to need some round crystals or bicones. I am using these clear crystal AB round 4 millimeters, but you can use bicones, you can use roundels, you can do what you want. So these are the series of beads you're going to pick up. You'll pick up color B, a color A, a crystal, a color A, and a color B, like this. You'll take your component, doesn't matter where, but you're going to pick a bead on the top in the middle, and you're just going to sew through that. And when you come down, it just attaches it there. So you'll do the same thing on the other side. You're going to pick a color B, a color A, a crystal, a color A, a color B, same series, and you're going to go through that seed bead again, just to close everything up, like that. Now, we need to reinforce, and we're going to reinforce this minimum 4 times. This is a bracelet. It's going on and off the wrist, and you don't want it to fall apart on someone that you've made this for. So reinforce that. Feel free to fast forward. I'm just going to be reinforcing here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my way back up. Now you can tie off your thread here if you want, but what I'm going to do is just sew my way to the top of this round component here. And it's an opportunity to reinforce as I'm doing that. Okay. Now, reinforced. So you're going to do that 2 times, reinforce, add it here, and then we're going to do the same thing to the last component here. So I'm just going to go follow my zipper path back and forth. Actually, instead of watching me get myself up here, get yourself up to the top bead that is opposite to this bead here. You will do the same thing to attach this unit. Do that, and then I'll show you what to do next. All right. Now we have put our bracelet together. Now we're going to decide how long we want this. And it's going to be determined by the size of your wrist. So get your ruler out. And this is measuring from end to end 6.5 inches. Now I did a test and I did it for 7.25 inches and it was too small for my wrist. I usually wear about a 7.5. But I think for this one, I like it to drape a little bit more than just be tight on my wrist. So I think I'm going to go to 8 inches or maybe 7.75. So we're going to be making a toggle like this. Now, you're going to space it out here and you're going to put your toggle, you're going to measure your wrist. And you'll see here, if I put my toggle over here 7.5, then I need to make the space here a little bit longer. If I need it 8, I need to make the space a little bit longer, okay? Now, if I had it another circle here, it's going to be completely off balance. I want 2 and 2. If you don't want to have a long toggle here, which you won't see because it's on the bottom of your wrist, you just make these circles bigger. So instead of 44 to start, 44 beads to start, maybe you put 48. Or keep it at 44 and do size 11 beads and size 8 beads on the outside. But we have done it like this. So we're going here, and I think I'm gonna make mine more like 7.5, 7.75. So let's start with this piece here. And you're going to thread on some thread onto your needle, again, about a wingspan, well, half a wingspan. And I want to keep in the theme of the colors here. So I'm going to start by picking up 14 beads, starting with my color B. Doesn't matter what you start with, but 14, alternating. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops, before we do that, we need a stop bead. get yourself a stop bead, bring it down to your thread, because we're starting with a flat peyote, then we're going to zip it up. So pick up 14 alternating colors, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I'm starting with my color B and I'm ending with my color A. I have an even amount of seed beads on here. I've tested this already to fit through this toggle. Okay. Now, flat peyote. We've been doing peyote throughout this whole segment, so you are pretty proficient. But in this case here, we're doing alternating colors. And I want, on this second row here, I'm just going to put in one color. And it's going to be whatever is ending on this side, that's the color I'm picking up. So I'm going to pick up a blue. I'm skipping this bead and I'm going into the next one. And flat peyote, it should be sitting like a T here on the end. Okay, I'm going to pick up the same color, skipping a bead, going into the next bead. Always the first row is so fiddly. And it starts building up some structure. Okay, same color, skip a bead, all the way to the end. So if you picked up 14 beads, you should be only picking up 7 in this row. And I'm not going to go through that stop bead. That stop bead is just there to stop my beads from falling off. All right, so we're going to flip it over. So I like working down, up, and I'm going to pick the second color bead, which is my color B, and I'm going to peyote my way up. Now, how many rows do we need to do? I'm going to finish this row and I'm going to show you how to count your rows with peyote. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there showing you how to do that, but I will show you here. Now, we've done, if you look at the rows we did one row, then we did, so it looks like we did 3 rows, right? But in peyote, that's not the case. We have to count the first 2 rows is the amount of rows that we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We actually did 4 rows. Okay. Now, what you want to do, you're going to alternate your colors until you have 8 rows. So you're going to count 4 here and 4 on the second one. So continue that until you have 8 rows. and I'll be right back when I'm done. So I've completed my piece, and as you can see, I have 8 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what we're going to do is, again, we're just zipping up. We're going to close this like a little taco, okay? And I'm coming out of this blue here. I'm going to sew through this blue, and we're zipping it up, okay? Just like we've been doing. Pull nice and tight. Alternating sides. Once we've zipped it up, that's when we can cut our end, our tail end. Okay, the last one. Now I'm going to go through, because I have 4 here, I'm going to go through this one, going down, back up through that blue, back up through this one. We're just reinforcing the end here. Now that I've gone through all that, I'm just going to cut my tail. Now we have this. So let's look at our piece. Now, for the amount that I put here, I'm going to be putting 2 crystals on the end to make it slightly longer. If you don't want the crystals on the end, instead of picking up 14, you'll pick up 16. All right, so, but I like the crystals at the end. So I'm going to sew back through the tube, right through, to get to the other side. I'm going to pick up a round crystal, like this, and I'm picking up a color, actually I'm going to pick up a blue. Okay, just like this, bring it right down. Here, you're going to skip the 11. You're going to go through the crystal, back through the tube, and then we'll do that again. Pick up a crystal and an 11, drop it down, skip that 11, go through the tube again, because now we're going to reinforce these crystals. So I'm going to go back up through the crystal, back down through the crystal, through the tube, up the crystal, and through the 11, pulling tight so it's nice and snug in there. And then I'm going to go back through the tube, but I'm not going to go up through the crystal. I'm just going to go in like this. And then I'm going to maneuver my way to the center of this toggle to create those beads that are going to hang on to one of the round components. So here you're going to see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll be right back because someone's at the door. Okay, I'm back. I just switched rooms, actually. was the handyman coming in to paint, so I'm downstairs now. As you can see, the lighting is a little bit different. Okay, so as I was saying, you're going to count your beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want to go in that middle bead. So either from the left or the right, or the left or the right, get yourself to that fourth bead. You're going to come out of there. Now, depending on the sizing you want, as I was saying, get your ruler out, and we're going to measure. I'm at 6 and a bit inches, and what I'm doing is I'm going to make mine about 8.5, or sorry, not 8.5, 7 3/4. So the series of beads I'm picking up is going to be this. So let me just pick them up and I'll show you what it looks like on the needle. And I'm just picking up a series of beads to make it longer, as long as it's kind of uniform and pleasing to the eye. So if I can get myself there. Still picking up my beads. Okay, almost there, and this is what I have. So I have picked up a color B, a color A, color B, color A, color B. So I have 5 11OC beads. I have my crystal, the 4mm crystal. Then I'm using a 6mm round, 4mm crystal, and the same series of beads on the other side. And that's going to get me to 7 3/4 inches with my toggle. Now, if you want yours a little bit smaller, maybe you don't want this bead, and maybe you just want a 4mm. So you're going to have to test that out to see what works best for you. So we're just going to make our circles like we did here. I'm going to bring these down to my toggle, okay? And I'm just going to grab one of the end here, and I'm going to sew through the opposite bead that I did over here. So I'm going directly in the middle, and it's going to be right here. Okay, now we have that. So now I'm going to pick up the same series of beads, but just the 11s. I'm not going to be picking up another crystal. I'm just going to pick up my 11s, same series, go through my crystal, go through my 4, go through my 6, go through the next 4, pick up the same beads, go through there, and come back and down, then we'll reinforce. So I'm going to pick up the same series of beads. Color B, color A, color B, color A, and then color B, like this. I'm going up through the 4mm. I'm going up through my 6, and I'm going up through my 4. So now I have this, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Going back through that top bead. Oops, I need to turn this around. Back through that top bead right here. And that's it. And now we're just going to reinforce. But I won't reinforce on camera because we're going to be here forever. So here is your bracelet. Let me zoom out a little bit to show you. And here is your bracelet. And I'm going to show you the difference between the Miyuki and the Toho. See, the Toho is a lot longer. The Toho beads, it's a lot longer, and that's because the beads are larger, even though they're the same size, and I didn't have to put so many beads over here. So this is what it looks like on. Here, I'll just quickly put it on here. And there you have your beaded bracelet. Sparkly, beautiful. And I'll reinforce this one and then I'll be done with that. And like I said, I'm going to have kits for this. I'm going to have 3 kits for the different, for the 3 colorways with a PDF tutorial download. And if you're interested, just click there, the bottom, or you just press show more and it'll bring you to my site. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. It's always a pleasure to do tutorials for you all. And have a great day, and we'll see you next time.